Let's turn our thoughts now to something else relative to economics. And before we get into it, let's do a little thought experiment. Let's suppose we're on a plane and we're flying back from Australia and we crash land on a desert island. This is going to be somewhere between the TV show Lost and the book Lord of the Flies. Now we wake up in the morning and we look in our right pocket and we find we have $100. Cool. Then we look around, we're on a desert island, and we look around and we see, wow, there's a couple people got bottles of water. And there's some people with hats. There's some people with shoes. How much are those things worth? Well, we decide. We got $100. This is capitalism, right? We have a democracy. We go vote with the dollars how much we're willing to pay for the bottle of water, how much we're willing to pay for a baseball cap because it's hot, how much we're willing to pay for a jacket because it gets cold at night. And we go around during the day, we bid on things. I want to buy more water, so I'll pay more than you. Maybe I'll pay all my $100 for a bottle of water just because I don't know when we're going to get rescued. So we go around the first day and we price everything out. Then we go to bed, go to sleep there on the beach. We wake up the next morning and we go, oh, I should go look in my other pocket. And you look in your other pocket and we all find another $100. This is some flight, I guess. Well, now we look around and we say, how much is that bottle of water worth on day 2? Well, I was maybe willing to pay $100 for it, but now I got $200. Maybe somebody starts to outbid me because they've got more money. Right? So they're willing to bid $110. Well, I've got $200, so I'll bid $120. And we go around the next day and we do the same sort of thing. Well, what has happened the second day? The price of everything has gone up. What people are willing to pay, because of the demand curve shifting, what people are willing to pay has gone up. I'm willing to pay more for that bottle of water. I'll pay more for that baseball cap. And why? Because we have more money. Now, that demonstrates something very important in terms of economics. Prices going up is inflation. So we just demonstrated what inflation is. It's the general increase in prices. We also demonstrated by the thought experiment what causes inflation, and that is more money. So so how is inflation doing? Well, to do that, we need to measure it. And the way we measure inflation is with something called the Consumer Price Index. An index is a number we make up to measure something. There's nothing magical about it. It's not a law of physics. We make it up to measure things. And this shows how fast prices rise. We don't care about the actual number. What we care about is the inflation rate. What percent inflation is going up? And you can see that we had some periods of very high inflation. Very, very high inflation. Now, how do we do it? Well, there's actually 2 measures. There's the Consumer Price Index. That's what we were just looking at. That measures the price of things to you and me. Another way to think about this is it's the cost of living. How much do we pay for gas? How much do we pay for TV? How much do we pay for renting? How much do we pay for cars? How much do we pay for going to movies and entertainment? All that together becomes a number we measure, Consumer Price Index. It's our cost of living. Well, there's another number called the Producer Price Index. That measures the prices for businesses. Businesses have different kinds of costs. Right? They buy different things. They pay more for buildings and equipment than energy and those sorts of things. Why do we want to measure these? Well, because if the prices go up for producers, that's going to affect the supply curve, and eventually prices are going to go up for you and me. Okay? When the price of oil goes up, price of gasoline is going to go up. So we want to measure these different prices. Here's an example of what is in the Consumer Price Index. Notice that most of it, 42%, not most, but the biggest piece is housing. Food and beverages account for 15%, but these are all the things here, all the categories where we spend our money. And that goes into the Consumer Price Index when the government calculates that out. Now, there's two ways of looking at money, the cost, the price of things. These are important words to know. One is nominal. That's the quoted amount, the stated amount. So I give you the example. If the price of gasoline in 1970 was 36 cents, and now it's whatever it is it gas more or less expensive than it was in 1970? Well, of course, the nominal price has gone up. The price at the pump, the price you looked at, has gone up. But a lot of it is due to inflation. So what we want to do is try and understand what it is without inflation. Another thing to think about is the price of a house. Maybe your parents or grandparents bought a house. It was pretty cheap. They say, oh, yeah, I bought this house for $150,000, and today I can sell it for $400,000. Okay. The nominal amount went up. But how much of it was due to inflation? So what we want to calculate is the real amount. I talked about this relative to GDP. Real is a technical term. It means we subtract out inflation. So to get the real amount, we take the nominal price, the nominal change, subtract out inflation, we get the real change. So if gas prices have gone up 100%, but inflation was 80%, then gasoline prices have gone up 20%. Think about this. You get a raise. If the raise you get is 10%, but inflation is 12%, you're actually making less. Inflation is more than your raises. So your real raise is negative 2%. These are important terms to know, and you'll hear that again. Inflation. There's some crazy stuff. Inflation is not a new thing. After the plague, the dukes and people who had the castles made their own money. They just, when they wanted to pay people to build a castle, they just made money. Well, if I make money, there's more money, inflation. 16th and 17th century, Spaniards came over to America. They took all the gold from the Incas and the Mayans and sent it back to Europe. Huge inflation in Europe because there's more gold and silver that were brought over from America. More money, prices go up. There's a concept called hyperinflation. Hyperinflation has no real technical definition, but when things go nuts, they go nuts. Notice in Hungary in 1940, prices doubled every 15 hours. And that was in 1940. You might say, that was, 70, 80 years. That was a long time ago. Jeez. Well, in Zimbabwe, in 2007, they had 11,000% inflation. Venezuela is so awful, has been so awful, they can't measure it. Venezuela won't measure it. And people estimate, the International Monetary Fund has estimated that Venezuela's inflation right now is 1,000,000%. That's nuts. So we call those situations hyperinflation.